Well, they said on stream they like the hair out. So let's go crazy. Hello everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Sprue review of the week video. And this one's slightly different because it's a real mixed bag of stuff. Yes, rather than us doing like a whole faction release or something like that, this week what we have is Warhammer Underworlds, Deathgorge. We have the Terminators, as promised last week. Did promise. And we have Hunter and Hunted from the Warcry range. I can't hear anything. Am I deaf? Yes, we've got these three boxes to look at today, and whilst the Terminators did go on pre-order already, these are brand new ones. It's just the Terminators turned up a little bit later than expected, and I promised we would do the entire range, so we're doing the entire range. So for those of you who've seen these videos before, you know what it is that we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at all of the sprues, basically checking out what it's like to build them, and then we're going to figure out whether or not I actually painted them all in time. It also gives you guys a little bit of a sneak preview as to all the content that's coming up here, as I do pledge to paint all of this, even if I haven't finished all of it. So if you would like to see those painting tutorials to learn how to paint your Deathgorge, Hunter and Hunted, and Terminators sets, then do make sure you like this video and you subscribe to the channel, as it's a free way to support me and it's very, very nice. We're so close now to 50,000, which means we're halfway to my dream. You don't want to shatter my dreams, do you? So sit back and relax, because there's two different game systems and one 40k appearance here, and if this kind of thing is popular, I'll do this more often. We've done this historically for things like army sets, faction releases, but never for this kind of hodgepodge of kits. So if you like this, then great. I would really like that. So here we go then. Deathgorge, Hunter and Hunted, and the Terminators. Let's check them out. So we're going to kick things off with a trip to the 41st millennium, and we are of course looking at the brand new multi-part Terminator squad. And inside the box you get one instruction booklet, you get a Space Marine Infantry transfer sheet, the new one of course, you get a bag of 40mm bases, 5 of them, and you get yourself a shiny 25mm base for your teleport homer as well. And then in addition, of course, the meat and potatoes of these kits is not one, not two, but 3 sprues of plastic. Lovely stuff. So let's have a quick look inside that instruction manual, shall we? To see what delightful options we have with which to build our Terminators. So as you can see, we get our usual intro to these booklets. However, we do actually have the basing guide here. Not that it's really important within this kit, because 40mm and 25 are absolutely very easy to take. Let's spot the difference, as it were. And the 5 come in one little bag and the 25 comes loose, so that's great. Get your 3 sprues as well, of course. Now we have inside, here we go, an interesting layout. Firstly, we have interchangeable parts. So the chain fists appear to be able to be assembled on any of the power fists that you so choose. All of the storm bolters appear to be, storm bolter arms appear to be interchangeable as well. So there's no kind of hard and fast method for building them there. I would guess though that the power fist ones might be, oh no, they're not, they're interchangeable as well, because it's assembling them to the arm. So your arms are all interchangeable, so you should have a bunch of different options here. The sergeant, you then build his body. You then have the option to build him as either a sergeant or as a bog standard Terminator, naturally. Turning the page, we've got a couple of different tilting shields, which is really cool. On here, that's nice, I like to see that. That's awesome. We have a pointing power fist, by the looks of things, which is awesome. And we have the power sword too, which is cool. He's quite a straight out arm, so it's not very posable in that respect. And I'm not sure if you can build a sergeant with a power fist. We'll have to find out looking in the codex. Next up, we have our next optional marine, where you can build with your heavy weapons. So you have your option for a heavy flamer, the assault cannon, or the cyclone missile launcher. I believe, as has always been the case, you can't have a cyclone missile launcher and heavy flamer on the same guy. But of course you get the power fist as well here. But again, this is separated out blue, green, and pink in this instance, which is pretty cool. I like it. And then we just have our remaining three, where you could put the cyclone missile launcher here, where you just kind of mix and match however you please by the looks of things. We've got lots of different options for heads and things. It looks like we've got helmets or bear heads for everyone, which is interesting. And then we get some kind of additional purity seals and medals and things. And the teleport homer looks like it's the same as it was in Indomitus in terms of its assembly, which is pretty cool. So there we go. There you have it. Looking good, looking awesome, looking hot. So let's have a look at those sprues, shall we? Terminators should be different to the usual feedback that we have for Space Marines, because there's no backpacks or anything involved. So I'm hoping to see some really, really interesting looking sprues. So here we go then. Let's start by looking at this one just here. So we've got a couple of torsos on here, 3 torsos on here, 4, no, just the 3 torsos, where we have our connection points here on the kind of underside of the chest, just like kind of there. It is a visible detail, so you will want to be careful when you're smoothing that one down with your mold line remover or your knife. We have slightly tricky to get to clip points on the chain fist, so you can see here it's quite difficult to get your clippers in there, so I'd recommend clipping it around about here and then coming at it from a different angle. And that is the same on this one as well. The other connection point is here on the flat of the blade, which is kind of like a, it looks like that sort of shape. There we go. So it's right in the middle of those, so do be careful when you're smoothing those down, because you don't want to round it off. But it is a flat edge, so it's not too bad. Our power sword here does not have a connection point on the blade, which is always great. We love to see that. And then we have the back of a torso just here, which has the connection points on the very top of the body. So that's in the most visible place it can be. So do be careful when you're dealing with that. But the other ones are on the kind of the armpits and the underside of this bit of armor. So they're nice and easy to hide if you are a little too vigorous with your chopping. We've got some shin guards here where we have the connection point, and I don't think this is going to be avoidable on any of these, but we have on this one on both sides of the outward facing leg, so it's not kind of on the under bit there where it's flat, which would be a slightly nicer kind of thing to do. We have it here on the flat, but then we have one here on the smooth detail of the armor. This one is on the flat underneath it, and then we have again on the rounded part of the armor. This one both on the shin, underside and on the shin, underside and on the shin. So it's okay. We have our hip plates here where they are connected at the top, which is lovely to see. Really like that, which means they might be all loose in here, which is really good because it means that it's nice and easy to smooth down. And you can create some nice dynamic Terminators, not having to kind of keep their arms low so that they're hiding those horrible gouges which inevitably happen on those hip plates. That is a huge plus. I really like that. That's a nice thing to do. Does mean there's a bit more gluing involved, but I'll take that over less mold lines and potential gouge marks. We have another sprue here, and so here we have our cyclone missile launcher housing, which is all connected on the outside of the housing, which makes that nice and easy to smooth down. We have similarly, we have a torso here and a torso here and a torso there. We have another one here, same feedback on the top of this one, and this one, and this one, where there is a connection point right on the roof of the torso. So you will have to be really careful across all 5 of your Terminators, so as you don't kind of gouge out a hole on that very visible area. Chain fists are attached exactly the same as they were on the other sprue, here, here, and here. We have the kind of flats of the power fists on here, which are quite nice because they're attached on the kind of edge of the punching area. So there is a frontward facing area, but it's nice and easy to smooth down because it's on a flat surface. Our legs, I should point out here, are all kind of attached by the looks of things at the boot. Some of them are by the knee, but then the kind of shin pad will cover that up, so that's okay. And where they do have connection points on the back, it is on a nice raised detail on that kind of exoskeleton of the Terminator armor, so that's pretty good. We like that. Stormbolter halves here were connected at the barrel, the back, and the underside of the magazine, so that's not too bad. It's kind of more tricky when it's on the top of the gun, because that's a very visible detail, right? But so like up here, for example, connected right on the top of that second barrel, so do watch out for that. You don't want to get that wrong, and because it's two halves of the same gun, so these two, presumably 80 and 81, will go together. When you are just kind of dry fitting these, just make sure you're not taking too much off the top, because you will get a noticeable crater on the top of your gun, which you definitely don't want. It's a pretty good sprue though, so far so good. We have our final sprue just here, where we have our shoulders and we have our big guns. We have our assault cannon, we have our flamer, we have our teleport homer, we have all of the heads. This is quite a nice sprue actually, because it's the small details. That's really nicely laid out as a kit. I like that a lot. The shoulders are all attached at the underside, just there. We don't have any on the rounded parts, so that is marvelous. One thing to watch out for is just in case there's any mold lines going across this kind of halfway along the flat, but there doesn't seem to be, looking at it like this. So those shoulder pads are excellent. Love it. Love to see it. The flamer, interestingly enough, appears to be in two pieces, where the heat shield bit, the barrel, is just one. We do have to put a tank on here, but that's really interesting because normally you would expect that to be in two halves, so you would have to watch out for a line going down the middle of the heavy flamer, but that is excellent. I love that. That's great. We have all of our heads. Now, they are attached on the top of the head. Not for these are all on the neck, which is great. I like that a lot. But these are all on the top of the head. Now, it should be hidden by the Terminator armor, but do be really careful on these helmets, especially on like this kind of bare head here, which you will see most of. This is a bald head, so do watch out there, because that's a potential place for gouging. Just be really careful on any of these heads where they don't have hair. Well, not any of these, because they're attached to the neck, which is great, but this one down here, because it's on the top of the head, I'd probably just avoid that one altogether and use these four if you're going to use bare-headed option. Component 111. Don't use it. Teleport Homer is as the Teleport Homer does, and we've got another kind of leg guard here, presumably for a sergeant, because this looks like a detail sprue entirely to me. It's connected at the underside and on the side here. And that's a left leg by the looks of things, so it sits like that. So this is going to be inward facing rather than outward facing, but still just be really careful when you're getting that one off the sprue. This is a really nice sprue. This is very, very good. As good as the Stern Guards set, I think. So that's awesome, because the Terminators are a popular one. Not a populated one, although the battlefields of the 41st millennium will be populated by many Terminators, I'm sure. So what we're going to do now is we're going to figure out how long it takes to build them, starting on our time lapse now. So our Terminators are all built. So now it is time to head to the mortal realms. And we're going to start with the box I'm most excited for. We are looking at Warcry, Hunter, and Hunted. So this is one of the newer, slightly smaller Warcry boxes that they make. You still get everything you need to play in here. But as they've explained, these boxes are slightly smaller on the terrain front, in that they can give you more high quality terrain, but less of it, presuming that you have a big Warcry collection already. But you don't need tons of terrain to play Warcry anyway. So what you get inside the box is the gorgeous new Moor Pit. It is absolutely fantastic. You also get the Gorger Moor Pack, who are just here, and the reason I'm excited, the Wildercore Hunters, or Wilder Corpse. I think it's the Wildercore, so that's what I'm going to be calling it. So you get all of that inside the box. So let's have a look at it, shall we? Everything you need to play Warcry in one box is what they say. So let's have a look. I've not actually seen inside one of these slightly smaller boxes. We have had the other one. Crypt of Blood is the other one that we've had. So here it is. And immediately, this is definitely one of those really high quality new terrain kits, because it's that really dense plastic. Like, that is thick, and it's also huge. That is enormous. Look at how big that is. My goodness me. Have we got a comparison? Yes, we have. Space Marine. Corsair Khan. Flipping heck. That is a big piece of terrain, and I love it. The Sarlacc Pit. No. Anyway, so there's our terrain sprue. So we get one sprue. That's how much we know of. Next up we have our Gorges. There they are. There's our cannibalistic ogres. What's their name again? The Gorger Moor Pack. Yep. They're not having a good time. That's why they're all albino and crazy. So they come on one sprue by the looks of things, because we've got one more sprue in here, which is the Wildercore Hunters. There they are. I'm excited. Cities of Sigmar. Anyway, inside the box, we also get a little half-size A4 sheet. I like that. I like that a lot. It's the same experience you get from the bigger boxes, which is nice. It ties the whole thing together, which is really cool. Next up, I'm just going to pop it down here. We get inside a resealable bag, which is nice to see. Not everything individually wrapped in plastic, I hope. That would assume everything in there is loose. And by the looks of things, we get our little kind of warband tome. Yeah, there you go. And we get our instruction guide and some cards, the abilities cards for the Wildercore. Oh, and we also get one bag of bases. It's all in there together, so that may prove to be confusing, but we'll find out. And then we have the Heart of Gur. It's part of that season. I don't know what cards these are. Something for playing Warcry. I haven't played it in a long, long time. Anyway, let's get this box out of the way, shall we? And let's open our resealable bag of papers. And we'll find out if they're individually wrapping things. It does not look like it, as far as I can tell. So here is our instruction manual, which we'll have a good look in just a minute. And we have our abilities here. So there's a Wildercore, universal abilities, universal reactions, your fighter types here. You have the Gorger Moor Pack as well. Fighter types just there. Universal reactions, universal abilities. Yep. Handy reference cards for playing the game. Now, we just extricate this from the bag. It might be a little too small for it. Oh, that's a tight fit. There we go. We got it. We got there eventually. I like that it's a resealable bag, so it saves on plastic. I think I've already mentioned that. Here we go. We've got our the twist table. Right, there we go. So that's probably what those other cards are. Victory conditions, battle plans, deployment maps for playing through this campaign arc. Yes. Do we have the core rules for Warcry in here? That is the big question. We've got the More Pit terrain rules, which is nice. Do we have the core rules? No, not by the looks of things. This is very much an expansion to your main game then. So, yeah. Expansion to your main game of Warcry, so you will need the core rules or to know them already, which I don't off the top of my head. As I say, it's been a long time since I've played Warcry. But there you go. Excellent. Love that. Let's just see if there's any other product photography bits where we've got some different colours maybe for our guys. Oh, there we go. We've got the... If they hadn't already previewed them, there's the Fire Slayers. Here we go. Wildecor, no, just in the Boggo colours, as we've already seen them. And the Gorger Moorpack as well. Facing off against the Quest to Soulsworn. I like it. I like it a lot. Oh, it's a lovely picture. You can see all of the Seraphon terrain. Love it. Nice. Okay, we're going to stop gazing lovingly into that book. What we are going to do is we're going to have a look inside the instruction manual. So we're just going to have a quick look at all of it, and then we'll build all of it at once, I think, in here. So we have 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, 4 pages for the More Pit, although not many components, as you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. It's not bad. 23, 24. Yes. Can't count. No, it's cool. I like it. It's a pretty simple build by the looks of things. And like I said, it is enormous. We have our Gorger Moorpack here, of which there are 5 of these guys to build, I believe. And they come over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. So that would make sense. There's a tick. There's a tick. There's a tick. There's a tick. There's our clawback. There's a tick. Yeah, 5. Loads of different options in here by the looks of things. The clawback seems to be, you just build one option here. But the Cave Howler, he is, again, just a single mono option on here. But then you get your Gouger with Great Club, or Gorger with Great Club, or just your normal Gorger. You can do a Gorger or a Gorger with a club. Or you can do a Gorger with a club or a normal Gorger. So there's tons of different options here, and you get lots of cool customization for your hammerheads, different faces. By the looks of things, I'm into this. I think it's cool. There's a lot of nice stuff going on here. It's just what we like to see for the ogres. More ogres, please. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I love this one. It's got an arrow sticking out of its shoulder. Lovely. Now we have the real main event, the Wildecor, and they are spread across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. Again, nice and neat. And there's a ton of different options in here as well. So we've obviously got our Wildecor Warden with double bited axe, the Wildecor Warden with hunting crossbow, or a Wildecor Warden with grizzled trailhound. They all appear to be holding a dog, which is cool. Maybe it's just, maybe one's a weapon and one of the others. We'll check. We get options for the helmets, steel helm helmet, or just a normal unhelmeted head, which is nice. I like it. And we've got one of the best boys, crossbow, pointy, axe. We have our Trailblazer with dueling saber or with twin crossbows. The dueling saber looks pretty cool. We have our Leatherhide with hunting crossbow or with Trogslayer spear. We have our more Trogslayer spears or hunting crossbows. Paired hatchets, hunting crossbows. Wildacor Scout with hunting crossbow or with paired hatchets. Arbalester, he's nice, I like him. And we got our Trailhounds, of which there are 4. Ooh. So, lots and lots of lovely stuff. Loads and loads of cool stuff. So, what we will do, thinking about it, is we will now do each one of these units individually. And then we'll time lapse them so that it's not punishingly long for this section. So what we will start with is our Morpit. It's the first one we got out, and it is probably the quickest one to do. So it's terrain. You know, you guys know it, you guys love it. These are some seriously massive pieces of terrain of just plastic components. That is enormous. It's as big as my thumb and finger. Same here on this one as well. I've got these large bones which look awesome. The Morpit itself is huge. I've got just lots and lots of really cool large details, which is nice because terrain can sometimes get a little bit over fancy, a little bit over complicated, but everything's really big, which is great. Got a couple of smallish components just here, but they're not that small. We've got some pretty chunky mold lines going on, and that's something to expect on sprues this size. And it's always kind of, with the terrain, they're always a little bit tougher and a little bit thicker because the plastic itself is just that bit more durable. You can tell it's almost a completely different color to the models themselves. You see, just different shade. It's just a lot more heavy duty, this plastic, and so it does mean that those mold lines are a little bit tougher to remove because they are just that little bit tougher and a little bit more rugged. So the mold line remover is actually better here because it doesn't have any bend in it whatsoever. It doesn't have any give, whereas a knife can tend to have a little bit of give. So a mold line remover is recommended for these, but of course you can use a knife if that's what you prefer. But with the mold line remover, it will just come off really quickly and easily. That's not to say it won't with the knife, but the knife has a little bit more give in it, so you are prone to it going along the side just because it is that bit tougher. We do have connection points in kind of on the tops of these fangs that go around the Morpit, so they will be ones to watch out for, and they are right at the apex of the fang or tooth, so right at the tip here. So you will just want to watch out for that so you don't kind of smooth them down. Just be careful, don't kind of attack it with a knife too vigorously, because otherwise you will get the flat tops, and you don't necessarily want that from your cool new piece of terrain. It's so big. I'm very into it. I thought this was snapped. It is not. Just the angle of the dangle, looking at it with the light. But this is really, really nice. We're going to build it up now. We're going to see how long it takes, and I'm very, very excited because AOS terrain, it's always bonkers. This thing is really big. It's a two-hander and it's awesome. It's a really cool little centerpiece of terrain to add to your Warcry boards or indeed your Age of Sigmar boards. You could probably get away with it in 40k. It's alien enough that it just looks absolutely stunning. I love it. It's so big. Covers up my entire hand. Love it. Gotta love it. Right, we're gonna move on from the Morpit to the Gorger Moor Pack, and as mentioned, we've already had a look at the instruction manual, so we're going to have a look at the sprue straight away. Now, in order to build these, we're going to require our 50mm bases, which we have in our pack here. So we're just going to grab them out. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, pop these back in for the Wilder core. Need those a little bit later. So we're going to need our 50mm bases to build these, and we will need this 2 set of sprues. So we're just going to snap this in half so that we can look at these one by one. And we're going to start just here on this one. So we've got some of our multi-part heads here, well, optional heads. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these heads around here. Now these are quite large heads, so usually I have a bit of a bugbear with things being like on the tops of heads, but because these are such large components, it's actually a little bit easier to thin them down and clip them off, which isn't so bad. It's still annoying because you don't want it on the top of the skull where it's going to be really obvious looking down at it, but it's not the end of the world because it is easier to kind of smooth it down. And these connection points aren't actually all that big. Quite often on Space Marine heads, they're weirdly large, whereas here, these are actually quite small, which is nice. We have a couple of weapons here, a couple of bodies where we have connection points on the side, right by the on the muscles here, and we have this right on the top of the neck, but it's a half neck, so there's like 2 halves of the body that appear to join around the neck, so you will want to be very careful just here on this body. Same here on this one, got it on top of a smooth detail, which is the wood. Here we have our connection points on some of the cloth, which is okay, but here we have it on the smooth round surface of the bone, which I'm not sure if that's more annoying than having it here on the elbow. It's probably less so because it's a bone, and a bone can afford to get a little bit gouged or a little bit kind of cut up because it's an old bone. But we do have connection points here, which is quite difficult to get to. You have to come at it with this angle with the clippers, or clip it there right next to the sprue, and then you'll have ease of access to get in there and get rid of that. But they are on the muscles here, here, and here, which we don't like around here. At Warhipster Towers, that is. Same on this body, we've got a connection point right here on the flesh and here on the hip, which is, it's okay, it's not great. The arms, we have it here on the flesh of the arms rather than just on the joint like this. Here we have it both on the actual detailings of the component. None of them are on the joint, which is a little bit annoying. I'm just saying that over and over again now. Got some interesting rocks here with our feet attached, which should make for really interesting posing. Ultimately though, it looks like there's a lot of components on here and there aren't tons. We've got some hammer heads here, for example, with some slightly tricky clip points, for example, just in there. That's going to be slightly difficult to get to, so you just want to watch out for that, so you don't clip off that little spike just there. And it might be the same thing on the other one I spotted over here. No, that one's not so bad as the first one. There you go, that's sprue number 1. Got a nice hand here where we got 1 connection point, but it's quite a thick one here on the thumb. It's either a foot or a hand, one of the two. But this is going to be one of those ones where you do want to be really careful as you're just smoothing that down so as not to flatten off the entirety of that detail, because you don't want to do that on details such as that. Bodies over here, same feedback. I think we've already touched on those, same as this one. So let's have a look at the other sprue. And this is probably going to be more of the same, except here we have an absolutely gorgeous 2-handed macy hammer type thing, which looks incredible. A big rock bound by a skull. I love that. That's a really nice touch. It's really cool to see. But similar feedback here. This head actually only has 1 connection point, as does this one. It looks like there's 2, but there isn't. So they're nice and easy to deal with. So probably use both of these. We have more of our legs and things with connection points on the actual flesh of these, which, thinking about it, isn't too surprising given as these are relatively naked models. They're not all armored up or covered in loads of leather like, say, the Wildercore hunters. But, you know, having connection points on things like cloth here is much nicer than having it on the actual muscles, because it just means that we're kind of got a little bit more leeway in terms of smoothing these down with a knife or a mold line remover than we do on those smooth muscles where we can see any marks that we make with a knife or mold line remover. Same for this foot here, so that means that previous one was definitely a hand, and for this foot as well, it's all just kind of on the outward facing flesh, which will make for a challenging build in terms of getting it all smoothed down. As far as I can tell though, there aren't huge amounts of mold lines, if any. You know, they've got a little one just in here on the underside of this leg, but we don't have any kind of really big thick ones, which is really nice to see on a brand new kit, which means we'll save time in that respect, and I like it a lot. I'm really a big fan of that. Thank you, Games Workshop. But no, these are pretty cool sprues. There doesn't, like I said, there doesn't appear to be tons of components, but what we do have here is really interesting and very, very compelling. For example, this large two-handed hammer, which we're definitely going to build. And these hammerheads are also really nice. I'm really into them. I like them a lot. They're really cool. So we're going to jump in and we're going to build the Gorger Moor Pack, starting with the clawback, of course, and we're going to figure out how long it takes us to do exactly that, starting right now. So our Gorger Moor Pack is now all built. Here's 2 of them. Here's another 2 of them. And here is the last one. They're looking pretty spicy. They're massive as well, which is really good. They have quite a weight to them. That's what you want for your ogres. So we're now going to move on to the main event of Hunter and Hunted. And that is, of course, the Wildercore Hunters. Now to build them, you're going to need this one set of sprues, which I'm going to separate like that, make it a little bit easier to build with. And this is where it gets a little bit confusing. What we're also going to require is 1, 2 40mm bases, 1, 2, 3 28mm bases, and 2, 4, 6 25mm bases. They're all on different sizes. It's not complicated at all, but it's worth it because it's such a cool unit. Anyway, we've got our 2 sprues. So here we've got a couple of kind of almost character level pieces. We've got our kind of champion, we've got our heavy weapon, and of course we've got 4 of the dogs. There's 11 miniatures in total, and we've got 2 sprues of plastic with which to build them. There's a pile of different options, and they're really exciting kit. So we'll start by looking at this sprue, and well, just quickly assessing for the first time, we have one of our mastiffs here, and they are attached at the sprue. Naturally it's going to be on the flesh. It is a dog after all, there's not armor all over them. We have it here, here, and here. This one's not too bad because it's on the underside of a paw, but we've got these 2 on the soft flesh of the body, and it is pretty much down the middle of the dog, so they will come in 2 halves, so do watch out for a kind of gap across the top of the body. We have a couple of heads here for the dogs. This one's right on the side of the cheek, this one's on the chin, which is good, this one's on the side of the cheek, and this one is both on the chin and the ear. So the dog heads aren't great. I mean, they look fantastic, but attached to the sprue wise, they're not amazingly attached, but it is what it is. Nothing we can do about it now other than just tell you to watch out for it. Next up, we have a body here, and we have half a body and half a body here and here and here and here as well. These seem to be generally pretty well attached. We mostly have an attachment point on the underside of the boot, which is great, and then we'll have a couple on the body. So for example, here there's one just there on the armpit, but we will be covering that with an arm, so that's not too bad. I quite like this one. As for this one, we have a slightly awkward clipping point just there, so again you might want to just consider clipping it right there against the sprue where I've just made that cut, and then kind of getting at it from a different angle rather than trying to negotiate your clippers right in there, because that would be slightly tricky. The connection point here is on the pouch, and it's on the rounded part of the pouch by the looks of things. So to watch out for that when you're smoothing it down, because you don't want to flatten off the top or the outside of it. We have a cloak here and a cloak here. They seem to be generally attached towards the outside. I'm not sure how many pieces these come in. This looks like it's a single piece. No, it probably isn't. It's probably shrouded around the body, because those are too clean on either side, but we shall see. We've got some pretty interesting connection points here for this hand axe, because we've got right there in that tiny little bit of the handle, so at least it's not on the hand. But then we do have it here on the top of the axe, which is okay. The spears, we don't have connection points on the blades, which is nice, but we do have 3 on each of them in various kind of slightly difficult to get to places. The heads, 1, 2, 3, and 4 that we can see here, they're all attached at the neck. 5 and 6, 7 of the heads are all attached at the neck. This one, however, is attached on the steel helmet. So do watch out for that one. We have a connection point on top of an axe here again on this leg. And just one thing to point out with these crossbows, those little kind of, well, it's the bowstring of the crossbow. You will want to watch out when clipping, so you might want to clip this one here first before you do these, because you don't want to add any stress to that component, which might end up in those snapping, because they are very thin and they have a little bit of give in them when I just press on them very gently with the knife. So do watch out for those crossbows. There's loads of detail here though. Look, we've got some packs, and we've got a couple of little over shawls and what looks like the top of a shirt just here. These are very interesting. They go together in a very interesting way. We have this component here, which I'm not sure what it is, but it looks like either part of the dog or the tongue of one of our humans. So that's interesting. Got a very tiny little hand here, so do watch out for that one. But yeah, I quite like this. This is quite a nice sprue. Should we have a look at the other one? Yes, we shall. So, what do we get? Well, we get more of the same. So we've got a couple more cloaks, just one more cloak here, in fact, just there. And we've got more of the dog's bodies here. We've got a couple of extra bodies here. Same feedback still applies for these. We have the really big arbalest crossbow on here, which is lovely. I love this pouch as well. I think that, I don't know why, I just really like it. We've got some kind of cool little bit of tree bark here, which looks nice. Kind of more of a ranged option for one of your guys. We have more heads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these all appear to be attached at the neck, which is excellent. Love it. Really like that. We've got another one of those mysterious pieces. Here we go. So that is a face that will press into either some hair or a hood. And these are ones you always have to watch out for. So you want to make sure you use very small amounts of glue on the back, because if you use too much, it will squeeze out the sides and then it will come in and it will clog the detail of the eyes, for example. And you don't want it to do that naturally. I've got some really tiny little hand crossbows here, which I am all about. I like those a lot. We've got a guy holding up what looks like a crucifix, though I'm sure that's probably part of the arbalest, but it could be used as a crucifix. This is really nice. More of the bodies for the dogs, as mentioned. They are again attached on the soft fleshy details, so you can't really avoid it. Unfortunately, they are quite prominently placed, so you will have to be very careful. I'd recommend with the dogs' bodies, when they are in their two halves, press them together and then smooth them down, so you get nice consistent smoothing going on, so at least it will match up nicely rather than do each bit individually. There's lots and lots of detail here. There's lots and lots of tiny fiddly bits. There's lots of areas where you can potentially have problems with your clippers. For example, just here. We've got some more here, for example, just on the edge of that hand. So just be very careful when you're clipping here, because if you kind of go too close to the detail, you might end up taking off his sleeve just a little bit, so it'll just kind of blend into the hand, and you don't want that to happen. This will be a slightly tricky area to get your clippers into because you've got a very small little bit of plastic just there. So again, just clip it further up here and then just get in from a different angle so you make sure you get it. For these hand crossbows up here, I would recommend clipping up here, on 55 and 55. So on the top part of the thing, because if you go at the bottom, there's a chance that you could put stress on the bowstring again, so do just watch out for that. This sword doesn't have a connection point on the cutting edge, which is great. We don't have any of that going on in this kit, which is lovely. And I'm very, very, very pleased that that's not a thing. So it's time to make myself even more pleased by building the Wildercore Hunters. So join me in just a second. There we have it, Hunter and Hunted, all built. It's a pretty cool little box, very efficient. I like it a lot. However, it is not the only box game that we've got to build up today, so we should probably move on now to Deathgorge. Yes, here it is, Deathgorge, the new Warhammer Underworlds box. If we just give it a quick flip over, because this thing is quite hefty, here is everything that we get inside the box. We get Cyrene's Razors, we get the Thrice Fold Discord, 7 double-sided fighter cards, 32 card Cyrene's Razors Rivals deck, 32 card Thrice Fold Discord Rivals deck, the 32 card Force of Frost Rivals deck, and a 32 card Breakneck Slaughter Rivals deck, 114 tokens, 64 page rulebook, 2 double-sided game boards, and 11 Warhammer Underworlds Deathgorge dice. There is a ton of stuff in here, which is why it's so weighty. But we have Cyrene of the Abyss and Vexmore, the excessively indolent. Wonderful names, as always. So, we're just going to lift the lid on this box of awesomeness. There we are. So, first up we have our game boards. Here they are. Here's the two, nicely packed up for us and folded, nice to look at. We have our rulebook, the full rulebook, I believe. I'm pretty certain it is just the full. Yeah, it is the full core rules right there. And we have some high quality photos of Cyrene of the Abyss, Sephanir, Renglaith, Alathir, Vexmore, the excessively indolent, Lasivir, the bladed blessing, and Vashtis, the coiled. Lovely, lovely stuff. I'm really into this. I think they look amazing. Really cool. Full rule book there. We have our instruction page. So 1 and 2. There we go. Nice and simple, easy to do. Slanesh all on one side, Idoneth on the other. Very easy, very simple. We don't even need to sit and look at it because these sprues are, as they always are, push fit miniatures in Underworlds. It's one of its big selling points. Some of the best miniatures that Games Workshop makes, hands down, and they're all push fit. It's always remarkable to see what it is they make out of these. And you get the coloured plastic, so you don't even have to paint them if you don't want to with Underworlds. You're ready to go because you've got 2 different coloured armies here already. Armies, skirmish forces, war bands, whatever you want to call them. So right out the box, easy to play with straight away with your friends or partner or family members. So that's really cool. Just the 2 sprues, that's all it needs. Nice and awesome. Then in the bottom of the box we have this gorgeous inset here. I like this. This colour is lovely. That would make a wonderful little background for some photos, I'm sure. We get our bag of dice. Here we go. Really nice colour here on these. And then we have our enormous stack of cards. 4 decks of them to be precise. Right there. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Warhammer Underworlds. If you've not got into it, It is a fantastic game to play. It is a fantastic little set of miniatures to paint, and that is exactly what we are going to be doing with this set. But first, before we get there, we have to build them, and we have to look at this instruction right here. Now, as mentioned, we're not really going to look too in depth at it because there's not a lot to comment on here, you see, because well, firstly, it's basically just push fit miniatures, so there's no real options here, and everything's laid out for you quite nicely. Just the components is as the components does. 6 components here for our Sirene. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. So it's not a ton of components for the Ideneth here. And for our Slaanesh, which is always really impressive when we see these kind of bigger, more complicated models. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 components there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's really impressive. This is why it's just one of the best miniature building experiences you can have. So what we're going to do is, rather than do these one by one, because there's so few miniatures in the box, we are going to look at both sprues. And as mentioned, this is really kind of a cursory glance, but we're going to start here with the Slaanesh right here, and we come on these 2 sprues. So not tons of components, as we've already discussed, just enough. My ones come with a bit of stress on some of these, not components, but sprue kind of, I guess they're kind of like anchor points for when it comes out of the mold, so that you get that nice clean break there. But this one has been strained, and this one has also been strained. This one has actually snapped off. But that is not a problem because the actual components here are all intact. This one has pinged off from its connection spirit point on the sprue just there. But again, that's all right because the component is still intact. There's lots of floating connecting points. For example, this one just here. And we've got some more going on, for example, just there. That component looks to be intact. Yes, it is. You can always check with these because they have this kind of really intelligent thing where, as you can see from that stress, the stress on the sprue there has actually turned it blue. So if a component is snapped, then it will have changed color, which is really cool. It's a really nice little feature. But yeah, we don't have loads and loads to sort of discuss here. They are always going to be a little bit tricky because these are such detailed components. So for example, this snake here, we've got that connection point there on the flat of the body. We've got the weird pole, but that's fine. It doesn't matter too much because, you know, that's going inside the model. You'll never see it. That's okay. The bases all match up with the right miniature, and they will all orientate with the right miniature. Now, one thing to bear in mind when building push fit models is if they are too tough when you're kind of approaching the dry fit situation, you can just clip off the peg and then glue the components together. Otherwise, you don't really need glue, as we can sort of demonstrate by sort of picking up, I don't know, components 1 and 3 here on this sprue. So where are we? We have component 1 here is this large, wonderful snake belly and leg and arm. So we have connection points, of course, naturally here on the smooth flesh of the leg and on the tail. This one will be right underneath, so it's not as critical, but it is one to watch out for because the peg is right there. So maybe when you seat it on its base, which I'm assuming is this one, component 8, yes, that it might actually just create a little bit of a gap there. So you want to be very careful with that. And that kind of goes without saying for all of these kind of push fit components. But we're just going to clip this one off, number 8. Going to clip that together. Is that number 8? No, it's number 3. Come on now. That's number 8. Here's component number. That's component number 1. It's not even number 3. I'm lying to you there. We have component number 3 here, which is the one we actually want. So we're just going to clip this one out. Like so. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to inspect these quite closely for mold lines, because with these components, because they are a different color to what you're used to, they might escape you attention. They are very, very subtle, but there is a mold line just coming very subtly along here. So just gently run your back of your knife or something over the top of the surface like that, just to catch it so it doesn't come up when you end up painting it later. Like that. Marvelous. And then of course, if you've got any trailing gates or flash from the sprue, just use the cutting edge of the blade to get rid of it. So for example, this large bit just here, we don't want that on our model, so we're just going to cut that away, gently press the knife, and then use the back of the knife to just smooth that out, going with the curvature of the leg, as we so often talk about. And then we're just going to inspect it, see if there's any holes. Doesn't look like it. Looks like we're all good. Just very gently curve another pass over it. Just that little mold line just there. Just take the underside of the leg as well. Otherwise, I think we're good on this component's front. Give it a quick blow just to make sure there's nothing on there that we don't want, and then we can just do the same thing for this component. And I always recommend with these types of push fit miniatures that you clip them out in pairs, so you know that if you're going to have to remove the pegs, you've got a manageable amount of parts, and it'll all make sense to you as you go along. Just going to deal with that extra bit of plastic there on the thigh. Just move with the curvature like so. Grab up that mold line that's going down there, and then this one, as we've already talked about, it's in a slightly trickier place. That might present a barrier to adding it to the actual base. So we're just going to make sure that we get that one like that. Grab a little bit more. Appears to be in pretty good spot. I can't see any other mold lines on here. I think we're good to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to dry fit these. So we're going to look at our instructions over here. So this goes in to that there, and it should all line up quite nicely. It does by the looks of things. And if I just press very gently on it, I can feel it giving. So that to me says that this one is good to go. Now some, you'll press on it just very gently and you won't feel any give, so then you'll require to really push it. But this one, I'm just kind of applying the gentlest pressure and it's moving. So that's a good sign that that's just going to go straight in. So I can just press that properly into place like that. Make sure it's nice and secure. And there we have it. We are already underway here. Similarly, we'll just finish this one off. We might as well on camera. But all of these kind of things will apply because we're hoping to come across something that actually gives us a challenge here. So that if we need to, we can clip off the peg. So for example here, right? So we've got the two pegs just here and here. Now, if we were to take this, say, which goes here, if we were to take this and I was to apply the pressure there and it wasn't really going, we need to still smooth it down, then what we can do is we can just take it and we can clip the peg right down there at the basin, or you can just take the tip of it off with some clippers, and that sometimes means you'll get that much more flusher fit, or you can go right down here and just use glue to just do it. You don't have to use glue, obviously, if you're push fitting, because the model will just hold itself together. Absolutely no problems whatsoever. So I'm just going to smooth this one down, just take that bit of extra plastic off. I'm going to just take this little bit of extra plastic off. There we go, nice and smooth, lovely stuff. There we go, get it all done. That component looks good to me, can't see any mold lines. There we go, I think we're cooking. So, once again, we're now just going to properly attempt the dry fit. Now we're just going to line up our pegs. So we've got one down there and one at the top. Like that, and like that. And I'm just going to press very gently, and already I can feel it going. So it should go together quite nicely. I just press it. You want to kind of press on the points so you don't strain anything or snap anything. There we go. It looks flush to me. We're in a situation now where this is going to be the first ever miniature straight off the box where there's no issues whatsoever. So this one here, we've got that large spear, and this is one thing to just point out. We're actually going to clip it at the top just here to avoid putting any stress on it. Because if we clip here, what you'll see is, if you watch the motion of the spear, see how it went like that? It went like that. Because of that, we want to, that's what we're kind of looking for when we sort of look at the stress of components. So that's 2 and 5 we need now. And these two go together. So this is where it can get a little bit complex with these things, especially when they're kind of encouraging, well, the actual build instructions tell you to build this in sub-assemblies and then put the sub-assemblies together. That's why just doing it 2 components at a time. And once you've done 2 components, clipping out 1 component will give you your 2. Whereas in this instance, the instructions are telling me to do these 2 together. So we clip these 2 out at once, but we do already have the body, for example. That's our 1 component. So if we were just going to stick a head on, or for example, just like the next component, we would only clip 1 out. There we go. Just check for mold lines along the arm. See a tiny little one just there in the soft muscle, but ultimately doesn't seem to be any more. So these 2 bits now go together by pushing them like that. That looks like a flush fit again. There we go, looking good. Then we have our next one, which is component 6. And clip it a little bit above because that's a nice rounded gem. We don't want to just kind of take the head off it, so we're just going to come at it with the knife, trying to follow the curvature of the gem. Like that, so we don't get, like I said, a flat top. Perfect. That's what we'd like to see. I'm just going to go from back to front to make sure we've got it all, because we don't want that to create a barrier for when we're attaching it. So this now goes in here, And we're just going to apply the pressure like that. And look, it's gone together. You're ruining my fun games workshop. Yeah, that's not going any further. It's already nice and flush by the looks of things. Yeah. Lovely. So now this attaches to this. This is where we might run into some issues. So this will go in here by pushing there and pushing down here. And this is where it gets tricky because we've got spindly details now. Just a little bit of extra oomph to it. It doesn't need any peg clipping. There we go. Looking great. One last component that isn't the base, and that's this head. One thing I really like about how these sprues are generally laid out is the components are fairly clustered together, so you don't have to kind of hunt all over the place looking for things. On occasion you do, but with this one, all of these components have been in that one corner of the sprue, so it's always a really nice experience when you're building things, when it's just all in that area, easy to get a hold of, as it were. So there we go. Just make sure that that head is all smooth. Make sure we've got any mold lines. Got a little one just here. There we go. Give it a quick blow, and then we're just gonna pop our head onto the body. No, we're not. We're going to drop it. Yep. See, just slides on. Barely any pressure. Love it. And then lastly, it's your last chance, Slaanesh sprue, to create issues for me. Number 8, the base. Scoop that off with a knife. Shouldn't be any mold lines on a base. There we go. Now just look at the bottom of your miniature. See where the pegs are. Here, here, and here. And you just kind of want to evenly apply the pressure once you've got it lined up. Nope. There we go. Push it in. And that's one down. There we go. And the sprue over here is exactly the same. Well, it's not, it's completely different bits, but there you go. And like I said, if you do need to, you can just clip off these pegs and use and just kind of add a little bit of glue. But as you can tell from that, that is a very complicated looking miniature, but it's just gone together really quickly just with pushing it together. So that's nice. Love it. Lovely stuff. There we have it, our first warband is all built nice and quick, and we're just going to have a very quick look at the other sprue for the Idoneth, and then we'll build the whole thing. So here it is, and once again it's the same sort of thing. Everything's push fit, everything's awesome, everything is different coloured. It's really cool. We've got some floating connection points here again, so those kind of support the injection moulding. I'm certain of it. We've got a couple of little spindlies here and there. For example, just there, we've got our octopus pegs here with some quite smooth details here, which we want to be very careful of. But for these guys, we've got a lot more kind of hard connection points. So for example, we have the glaives here and here, where it's nice and connected on that kind of the hard part of the metal. We do have a little one just here on the haft of the weapon, and same down here. But again, we've got nice smooth flat details here and here. We have a connection point here on the top of a head, which we'll just want to watch out for. Again, just smoothing it with the curvature of the miniature. And then we have some nice chunky bases. The octopus should be an interesting one because it's all tentacly and all flaily. We've got a very kind of slightly tricky connection point just under here, which you'll want to watch out for, because you've got those spikes on the octopus arms, so you just want to kind of clip it round about here, so you get a nice kind of run at it from the right angle. Kind of clipping it straight from the sprue, you'll probably end up accidentally taking these spines off, which you don't want to do, of course. Yeah, there's not very much to add here. We have a connection point here on the cloth of this one's clothes, so watch out for that. And it looks like that's a bit that's in two halves, yeah, because that's a flat edge. So you'll want to watch out for a seam running along that. It might be that you just need a little bit of glue just to make sure that those stick together and you don't have a gap, but otherwise you should be fine. This one similarly got a seam just there, so do watch out for that if indeed it does connect to another bit of cloth. Really cool, very nice, lots of tiny details. A nice little diddy little bit here, which looks like a very interesting one to attach. Looks like it's part of the octopus in that it's a double pin, so you've got a pin here that will go into two different female holes, and then you've got a female connector just there, which have a male pin that will go right through the middle. So that will be an interesting one to build, component 17, so watch out for that when you get to it. It might be that it's just really crucial that it can't be clipped at all, because sometimes those pins can't actually be clipped because they do hold the whole thing together, so do watch out for that. And another point of order is just here. You've got a spindly peg there, so you want to clip it just here under the neck first, and then do the other two bits. That way you don't snap it, because if you clip here you might end up putting too much pressure just on there. Otherwise, pretty good sprue. So let's build it up, starting right now. So I think it's fairly obvious by now I didn't paint all of it. Naturally I didn't. But I did manage to get 2.5 things done. The half thing is the Wildercore Hunters. They're looking at me right now, but I'm editing and performing in this video right now, so I can't finish them. But let's have a look at what I did do. First up, we of course have some Terminators, and I had to paint them in the colours of the Salamanders to accompany that chaplain. He needed some friends, so now the Stern Guard needs some friends. I need to get my hands on a lieutenant perhaps. But I really like these, and I really enjoyed making those power fists all flamey and awesome. I can't wait to show it to you. Next up, we of course have the Gorger Moor Pack. Here they are. They're brilliant, and I love them, and I think they've come out really, really well. Can't wait to show you this video. It's quite a different way of painting here, although shouldn't be too surprising to many of you veterans out there, but it's a really effective scheme, and I love it. And no, I haven't done the bases, and I haven't done the decals on the Salamanders. I'm sorry. There's only so much time. But as I've already said, the Wildercore Hunters are in the process of being completed right now, and then I will be moving on to Deathgorge very, very shortly. Hopefully tomorrow. So what was it like as an experience to build? Well, first things first, let's talk about the Terminators. Terminators are a pretty cool kit. They have their multi-part and optional power fists, chain fists, and storm bolters. We do have the Cyclone missile launcher now, and of course the heavy flamer, which is great. It's all the minimum things you would expect from the Terminators, and I'm very, very pleased that they're all still featuring in the kit. A massive benefit here is that the Sergeant can now take a power fist, so he no longer has to be a loser with a sword. That's lovely. I really like that as a change. It's a quality of life change, and it's brilliant for the Terminators. And the fact that you get those components to do that, absolutely spot on. I mean, we can even do 5 chain fists now if you wanted. That's a scary thought. They went together pretty well. Mod lines are pretty well laid out. Like the Stern Guard before we talked about last week, the Terminator's kit is pretty much as good as that one. I'd say it's a highlight from the Space Marine range. They're not particularly dynamic or that interesting. We've seen a lot of Terminators now, but they are very, very nice as an addition and as a replacement for the multi-parts and of course the classic old multi-part versions. Did I just say multi-part a bunch of times? I'll remove that in post. One thing I would have wished for is an Assault Terminators variant here included in this box as like a dual kit. That would have been really cool, but we don't have that, so we should move on. Otherwise, really nice kit, and if I had to rate it on the Land Raider scale, because we're going to do that for each of these sets rather than as an aggregate score, I would give them pretty easily a solid 8 out of 10. It's a really, really good kit. It is really nice. And it goes with the push fit ones really well. They look good. And it was pretty simple to do. And they're nice to paint. So yeah, an 8 out of 10. Pretty easy. Next up, let's talk about Hunter and Hunted as a set. Now, the Moor Pit itself was a little bit tricky to put together. Some of the components feel a little bit too big. So the big skull on the side, there's a kind of connection point right in the middle of the skull where one side is just a little bit too long to have the whole thing fit flush, and the same for the large Moor Pit itself, and that's just going to happen with large bits of plastic. Now you can just kind of smooth them down a little bit until they do go together, which isn't too bad, but it is one thing to bear in mind for the Moor Pit. Of course, it is terrain, so how much do you really care? You know, it's really nice though. It's a lovely piece of terrain, and it should occupy the central space on most battlefields, especially your Warcry battlefields, because it looks really good, and I'm excited to paint it. It's going to be really fun. The Gorger Moor Pack are really interesting. They look amazing. They are just so big, and especially when you stack them up against the Wildercore Hunters, they look really intimidating. Painting them was really fun as well, doing all that extra kind of blood effect. It's just great to be nice and messy with your paint, of course, because it means you don't have to care so much. Although we do care very deeply about how we paint our miniatures around here, don't we? Building them was a really fun experience. They look great. I can see a bunch of them being built over the next couple of months, especially for like the other options in there. You don't just have to have the hammers on there. I kind of wish I had another 5 so I could do kind of all bare-handed Gorges. I think that would be really cool. It would be gorgeous. And the Wildercore Hunters, they are a fun little unit, aren't they? They're very characterful. They're tiny little guys, like really, really small. I mean, look at them. Diddy. But there are so many different options in there. There's got the double hatchets, there's the shooty crossbows, there's the spears and things. The Sergeant alone having 3 different things that he can have, either the crossbow, I think, the axe, and just pointing. That's really, really nice. I like it. It's a very customizable kit. It feels more reminiscent of like a kill team from 40k, that there's just so much options within here that is really, really nice. And I get you get this from Warcry sets, absolutely you do, and it's just a really refreshing little model kit to put alongside your steel helms from the Cities of Sigmar range. My god, Cities of Sigmar, you are just the greatest. I bet you're wondering why I didn't paint them first. It's because if I did paint them first, I wouldn't want to do the rest of it. You've got to save your dessert till last, guys. But as a little set that augments your Warcry collection, and I know in the video I said I was disappointed that the core rules weren't in this box. I did notice as I was editing it today, it actually says that on the back, so that's my bad. To have the core rulebook though, I do have the core rulebook, and to kind of have this as an augmentation to a Warcry collection, I really like this idea. I think it's great, and it doesn't necessarily weigh you down with kind of too many bits of terrain that you don't necessarily need, but also it's just more cost effective for fans of Warcry who want the warbands, and maybe an extra terrain piece is just really, really cool. I like it. I think it's a great direction for the box games, and I'm hoping Kill Team goes down the same route. So overall, Warcry, Hunter and Hunted, if you are brand new to the world of Warcry, it's a really good starter from a hobby perspective. You will need the core rulebook as well though, and it is clear on the box, I should say. It's just my own negligence of not being able to read properly when I'm under pressure. So overall, cracking box, really nice little hobby experience. Two very different teams or warbands that are within this box. I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10 because I just love it. I think it's a really, really good step for the box game. I really do. I think it's fab. I just hope that there's like a core box that will be in everything you need, or just like a terrain pack. That would be really cool with a core rulebook. It's a bit of a rubbish product though. Don't listen to me, Games Workshop. I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, Land Raider scale for Hunter and Hunted. Let's go with a 9 out of 10. I just think it's great. I really do. It's a really, really nice box. Finally, let's talk about Deathgorge. Now, Underworlds warbands are, I think we can all agree, some of the best models that have been made by Games Workshop across both ranges, hands down. They're full of character, they're really easy to put together. The box you don't even have to paint because of the different coloured plastic within it. And the game itself, whilst I haven't played it for a while, the game itself is always a really, really good time. It's the most competitive game that Games Workshop makes, and that absolutely means that you should give it its time of day if you're a fan of competitive tabletop wargaming. These boxes, as far as I'm aware, always have everything you need to build, paint and play with within the box, and you can do it within about half an hour. It took me roughly an hour to put together the miniatures, but you know, I was filming it, so that adds a little bit of extra time. So to be able to go from purchasing to playing within that amount of time is just fantastic. It's really, really good, especially with miniatures of such quality, design and a really nice aesthetic. They're just fantastic miniatures, and I didn't have any trouble whatsoever putting them together. I think there was one bit where a tentacle didn't quite line up with a base, so I used a little bit of glue just to anchor it, but that could have been just me at the end of a long day kind of just not being patient with it, because I put it there and I went, nope, that's not going to work, here's a bit of glue. And I built all of this in a day, so, you know, I was fried by the end of it. But to do that at the end of a really long day, I really enjoyed it as a building experience. And if Alice hadn't been asleep, I would have demanded that we start playing Warhammer Underworlds right there and then. Instead, we're going to wait until I've built the thing, and maybe we'll do some videos on how to play Underworlds. So overall, how would I rate Deathgorge? Well, it's very difficult to do that, because if you like the game, then this is just another case of the awesomeness. The miniatures are really, really great. Everything is in there. I'm going to have to give this a 9 out of 10, I think. Just as a product on its own, it's fantastic. If you're not a fan of either of the factions, just wait, there'll be another one. So overall this week, Age of Sigmar is, of course, winning over 40k with its ratings. That's not to say that the Terminators are bad by any stretch of the imagination. I've given them a very good rating out of 10 on the Land Raider scale. But AOS, once again, just showing off its model muscles, being fantastic and being wonderful. And yeah, a really, really nice week of Warhammer, I think. Really enjoyed this one, putting all this together, and I'm really enjoying painting it. I just got to get on with it. So if you enjoyed this one and found this one useful, please do let me know in the comments. I would really love hearing from all of you. And if you're looking forward to getting your hands on any of these, please also do let me know. Because, well, I think Underworlds could be a game that I could really, really enjoy. And Warcry, actually. And possibly Kill Team later on. We'll have to see what happens with Kill Team. But I'm starting to see it. And this is pretty cool. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel and you'd like to support me further, you absolutely can do so by heading to patreon.com/Warhipster, just like all of these wonderful, amazing people have done. And alternatively, you could become a YouTube channel member by clicking on the join button below, exactly like these fabulous folks have done, scrolling up on the screen before you. There are so many of you out there that it really takes my breath away, and I cannot thank you enough for everything you do, as without you I wouldn't be able to keep making these Contrast Plus videos. And if you really like this video and you want to send me a little thanks, just click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.